What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of The 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. The highly anticipated Mission Impossible 7 was scheduled to come out at one date and now is scheduled at a later date, and it seems like it just keeps getting delayed along with so many other movies due to, of course, guys, the pandemic going on in our world. And so I wanted to take this first segment of the show and talk about everything that we know so far about Mission Impossible 7 and when we can expect to be able to watch this movie, what it might be about, and everything that we really are hoping that we can expect and hoping that we see in this upcoming film. So let's talk about it. So in an article, guys, that was written by Hamza of Pop Culture Times, the most advanced technology science fiction movie of its time, the movie which brought immense fame to the actor Tom Cruise through his character Ethan Hunt. The franchise has earned a lot of fans and money from all around the world and is coming back to us. And the shooting was to start from February 2020, but due to, of course, the outbreak, the shooting was delayed. The release date would also be delayed because of this. Although there is no news about any such update, we do have an update since the writing of this article, guys. Both the movies will be directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who has already directed 2015's Rogue Nation and 2018's Fallout. Fallout alone raised $791 million globally. This next is going to blow up our minds as well as the charts, most likely, of course. The creators have already given us a definite date for both of the upcoming installments of Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible 7 will be released on July 23rd, 2021, and the Untitled 8 film will be released on August 5th, 2022. But as per the circumstances of the outbreak, the chances of the dates being delayed are very high, which they've already been delayed once again, guys. So, look, as far as that goes, most likely, more and more movies are going to be delayed, and it could be significantly later than what we were hoping and expecting for. And this movie, of course, is no different. I should say these two movies are no different, in my opinion. But let's talk about some of the things that we definitely know, at least at this point. That being like the cast. The previous movie's cast will be returning, hopefully for the 7th installment too. Tom Cruise will reprise his role as Ethan Hunt. Simon Pegg as Benji Dunn, Rebecca Ferguson as Isla Faust, Vanessa Kirby as Elena Mitsopoulos, Henry Cerny as Eugene Kittredge. As per now, nothing is confirmed, so let's just wait for the shooting to start when we'll be able to first tell who those people are. So really, guys, at this point, the things that we know are very limited, but as far as, this is going to be pretty much a direct continuation as per, numerous sources, a direct continuation to, of course, Fallout. And so I think there's a lot of people that are really excited about this in an article that, of course, guys, was written by none other than Brian Welk of The Wrap. Mission Impossible 7 and 8 release dates have been delayed. So obviously, guys, this kind of gets us back to that both of these, of course, the dates for both 7 and 8 have both been delayed, which I've already talked about. But both films will now open in November of 2021 and 2022 as part of Paramount release date shuffle. The release dates of the 7th and 8th Mission Impossible films starring Tom Cruise have been delayed by Paramount, with each moving back to the fall from their previous release dates in the summers of 2021 and 2022. Mission Impossible 7, previously scheduled for July 23rd, 2021, will now open on November 19th of 2021, and Mission Impossible 8, previously scheduled for August 5th of 2022, is now November 4th of 2022. Paramount also set new release dates for the previous updated films The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt and the animated film adaptation of the popular kids series Paw Patrol. So, Dungeons & Dragons film from the directors of Game Night, previously scheduled for November 19, 2021 by Paramount, will now open in the summer of May 27, 2022. So at the end of the day, guys, there's just so many other movies that are now being pushed back because of the pandemic going on. And look, it's kind of throwing a lot of things off, obviously, guys, and it's unfortunate that it's going to take a lot longer, but I think that these are these are moves that have to be made, guys, in order for these movies to be, I think, the quality that we're expecting them to be. In Mission Impossible 7, which, I mean, we're expecting this to be just as good as these other, previous installments in the series. So I think that in order for that to continue, they absolutely have to push these things back. Now, production on the Mission Impossible films in Italy, which are filming back-to-back with the intention of being released a year apart, was shut down due to the pandemic back on February 24th. Cruise had not traveled to Italy or had been quarantined in his hotel room, as some outlets had reported. Christopher McQuarrie is directing both films in the action franchise. And then, of course, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Haley Atwell, Tom Cruise, along with newcomers Nicholas Halsey Wiggum and Pom Klimtiff, as well as Henry Czerny, is returning to the franchise after being away since the first film. So then Paramount is releasing both Mission Impossible films in conjunction with Bad Robot, Skydance Media, and TC Productions. They're the latest studio to shuffle its release slate, as studios have largely written off the summer of 2020 and begun moving their tentpole films to 2021 and beyond. So look, here's the thing, guys. We know a number of things about really Mission Impossible 7 in this particular standpoint. We know that, for the most part, the cast that's being pretty much confirmed at this point, some newcomers to that cast as well, where it's going to be filmed. But at the end of the day, the biggest question marks are really where are they kind of trying to take this series? What direction are they trying to go in? And honestly, guys, this is a great popcorn movie. It kind of reminds me like Fast and Furious, just very exciting, a blockbuster film that you got to watch on the big screen. And Tom Cruise probably going to do some incredible stunts once again in this movie, which he tries to up the bar every single movie. So here's what we can probably expect, guys. I mean, I would say that they probably, with Mission Impossible 7 and 8, now that they've kind of been shifting these movies, right, and moving them further and further away from their initial release dates, I think that probably where they stand at this point, November of 2021 and 2022, I think we're probably going to be safe at that point, because I would think that by that time, the pandemic will have been subsided, maybe for a while, actually. It's, of course, hopefully, but it's hard to say at this point. I don't think that they're going to be delayed significantly longer, just because obviously they don't want to bunch everything together, but at the same time, Mission Impossible 7 is going to do very well regardless of what time of the year it comes out. So I would love to hear from you guys, though. What are you the most excited to see in Mission Impossible 7? I just can't wait to see a continuation. I'm excited that we're getting a 7 and an 8th Mission Impossible movie because they're just that good. They've become such fun, exciting films to watch, and I can't wait to see the stunts that Tom Cruise decides to do in this upcoming movie. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Mission Impossible 7 and what do you guys want to see in this movie. Let me know, and for more Mission Impossible 7 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. With the recent announcement of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I wanted to go ahead and talk about everything that we want out of this game. And when I say we, guys, I'm mainly talking about myself, obviously, because it's just going to be pretty much my opinion here. But I know that there's a lot of you out there that share similar opinions. And if you don't share the same opinions, I would love to hear yours in the comment section below. So let's get into it. So, guys, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I think I'm saying that right. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I have to say this. I've been critical of Assassin's Creed as of late. Since Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey came out, I've been pretty critical of this franchise. And so what I'm going to be speaking of regarding Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I want to talk about what it is that what it is that I, as well as many of us, I think, want out of this upcoming game. So I think, number one, the biggest thing, guys, is going back to what made Assassin's Creed so great in the first place. And that was a stealth-based, RPG versus an action-based RPG, which is what we've gotten in the past few installments of these games. And so I think number one for me is going back to what made it so great, that stealth-based type of game. And it's fine to have action in. I have no problem with having action within an Assassin's Creed game. I think that it's good to have those things, but I think stealth is what what made this franchise so special. So whether you start with having the stealth or you end off in this game having that and kind of going full circle where you kind of imply, that being Ubisoft, Ubisoft that they're going in a direction of back to like the traditions of what made Assassin's Creed so great in the first place. And we saw at the end of the first trailer, the cinematic trailer that came out for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we saw them use the blade, of course, at the very end, right? Our character, most likely that we're going to be playing as, used, of course, the hidden blade, and that was cool. I really liked seeing that at the end of the trailer. But, you know, all you need, like really what I feel is that if you kind of turn this into, you know, the hood, the stealth-based kind of gameplay, the concerns I have for Assassin's Creed Valhalla at this point is that it looks like it's more of the same from like what they started with Origins and Odyssey, more of an action RPG versus that of a stealth RPG. So what I feel, though, guys, and I've said this on a number of occasions, that they're kind of just, they wanted to try something different because they had done the same thing over and over again so much, which I think it was just oversaturation in the Assassin's Creed, you know, in this franchise. They were just pumping out way too many games, similar to like a Call of Duty title, and they were just bringing out new games every single year, and sometimes even 2 games. So what I'd like to see here is with Valhalla, I would like to see, even if they don't start with having stealth and things of that nature, I would love that if they did, but even if they didn't, even if they built to that, and then near the end, your character either is, you know, really becoming an assassin, a part of the Assassin's Creed, or it ties into the story in one way, shape, or form. That's kind of the first thing. Go back to what made Assassin's Creed great. And there's nothing wrong with having action, guys, but Assassin's Creed was built on this stealth-based RPG gameplay, and so I think they need to have some of that at least moving into this game. And you know, having these assassins that they can climb buildings and like at rapid rates and just hiding in you know, bales of hay and things of that nature made it such a special series, and one of my favorites all time. But over time, it's kind of slowly but surely kind of shifted. And I think Ubisoft's done that, probably just because they wanted to change things up because they were making so many games, similar to like what Call of Duty did. They were making the same kind of game, and then, you know, they wanted to change, and they did by adding jetpacks to Call of Duty, which didn't make it, you know, it changed the gameplay, certainly, but it really split the fan base. And so I think that this is important to bring some of that fan base back. But so that's number one. Number two, guys, the big thing for me, a huge thing for me with Assassin's Creed Valhalla going into this game, I don't want to be forced to play side quests in order to continue the main story. And so what I mean is, guys, is that with, you know, some of these past installments, these recent installments of Assassin's Creed, you'll be getting into the story a little bit, and then all of a sudden, you want to go do, say you want to continue the main story because you're starting to kind of get into it a little bit, but then you're drawn out because the game forces you to do side quests in order to continue the main story. I'll give you another example of this, was Far Cry 5. I thought Far Cry 5 was had an incredible narrative to it, but the problem I had with it was that it forced you to pretty much do all the different side quests and such to even move on to other regions within the game. And so that really bothered me, that I had to do side quests in order to take down one of the main villains of the story or continue the story. I just don't like that. I love doing side quests, but I don't like being forced to do them. I like to be able to kind of go at those things at my own pace. You know, I'm on my way to my next objective, but there's a side quest here. I want to do that side quest, kind of get more lore, more story. I understand where Ubisoft is coming from with it, but the problem is that if you force people to do side quests, you're essentially forcing people to be pulled out of the main story and doing side quests when you really are starting to get into the main story. And I noticed that on a number of occasions in these most recent installments in Assassin's Creed. And so I want them to go back to, look, having the side quests is great, but doing them at your own pace is, you know, you can of course do that, because this is how it works for me a lot of times with the Assassin's Creed games. And same thing, guys, with pretty much every single open world game I've ever played, what I'll generally speaking do is I'll play it the first time through. If we're talking a single player experience, you play it the first time through, I'll do some side missions, and then after I beat the game, I will play the game over again, usually on a higher difficulty, and I'll also try to do some of those side missions. I usually play a campaign up to 2 times, and I change it up the second time around with an open world, of course an open world game, because you want to take everything in, or as much in as you possibly can. So I want to do the side quests, but don't force me to do them. Number 3, guys, and this is a big one for me with Assassin's Creed, is multiplayer. Having multiple ways that we can continue connecting with the franchise. I talk about this all the time, guys. Every AAA title should have a single player story, co-op modes, as well as a multiplayer modes. And I'll give you the best example, in my opinion, with Assassin's Creed. When Brotherhood came out, I loved the concepts that they were showing everyone in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. It was like a stealth-based multiplayer experience, which really was something different. It was exciting, and I would love to see them kind of continue things along those lines, or even just expand upon what they kind of started with their multiplayer modes in Assassin's Creed, and kind of, give us more that we can connect with this franchise. Because when you have a single-player story, that's great, open world and such, but when all you have is an open world single player experience, after you play it 1 or 2 times, you're going to move on to other games. And so I think that it's in the best interest not only of Ubisoft, but all of us, that, you're going to pay $60 for a game. You're going to want to have a full experience where you're not only playing a single player experience, but you're also playing, able to come back and play multiplayer as well as co-op modes that you can play with your friends. So those really, guys, are the 3 big things, the 3 main things. But as far as specifics go, furthermore, the characters, right? I mean, we always have had, at certain titles in this franchise, we've had pretty great characters, and then we've had, mediocre characters. I'm hoping that the characters in Assassin's Creed Valhalla are very memorable. And look, what I said about the initial thoughts on the trailer of Valhalla, I thought that the graphics were just incredible, looking so visceral and immersive, and just very well done as far as the graphics are concerned. Now, that's what a cinematic trailer is meant to do, but I got very immersed into the story. But at times throughout the course of that cinematic trailer, it didn't feel at times like an Assassin's Creed game. It just felt like more of an action-based game, right? An action RPG. So, look, we're going into the Viking era. Am I excited about that? Absolutely. I think one of the great things about Assassin's Creed is they go into different, time periods. One thing, though, that I feel that has really hurt this franchise, though, is that you'll start getting connected to some of these characters, and then all of a sudden you're pulled out once again to new characters in some of the other games. And so, Ezio, when we played as him, it was like 3 games that we had with him, but then you're pulled out and you kind of are introduced to new characters. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think playing in different time periods is great, but having a story that overall comes back, it comes full circle, so it all kind of makes more sense. I'll tell you what, guys, and I've said this on a number of occasions, at the end of Assassin's Creed Revelations, I was really worried about where they were maybe going with the franchise. It was kind of like, well, where are they going with this? And then as the series has progressed, it just hasn't, it's almost had an identity crisis at times, in my opinion. Like, it just hasn't really, there isn't like a full-blown vision for where this is supposed to go in the end. And so what I'd like to have is a way in which Valhalla ties into the rest of the games, but it more so ties into the more traditional games, like the beginnings of Assassin's Creed. So it starts making more sense. You start seeing more familiar faces, and then as we move into the next, continuations of Assassin's Creed, it starts making more sense in the story. Even though there can be mystery, guys. At the end of Revelations, there was a lot of mystery there, which I'm cool with. I love having mystery, psychological, twists and turns, but when you're making other games and then they're kind of completely separate and you're not really tying them in one way or another, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'd like to see it start tying more in, and hopefully we go back into that, like I said, the stealth-based RPG kind of style, even if it's 50-50 action and stealth. Also, the thing about Valhalla that makes me think that this isn't really a main, one of the main stories within Assassin's Creed. The reason is because if it were, I feel like it would have been called Assassin's Creed 5. See, we had Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and I was thinking, are we going to get a continuation of Assassin's Creed 4? Like, would this be called Assassin's Creed 5 Valhalla? Or we talked about Assassin's Creed Ragnarok as another potential title. So my thought is that maybe this is a game that's going to round out this other trilogy that they put together, that being Origins, Odyssey, and now Valhalla, and then they'll go back to Assassin's Creed 5, whatever, if that's called Ragnarok or whatever it might be. It's going to be interesting to see, guys, because maybe Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla are all meant to just tie in together for whatever reason or another, and then we're going to go back to the original timeline here to 5, or continuation after Black Flag. That's where it's just gotten very convoluted and confusing, even for myself, someone who loves the Assassin's Creed franchise. It's hard to sometimes keep up with because you were having games almost come out every single year. Call of Duty is totally something different. It's worked for them because they bring out one game per year, and sometimes they don't really tie into one another unless it's like the Black Ops series that tries to tie in with one another, or Modern Warfare. It's just kind of one of those things where you're able to kind of get into a Call of Duty game because it has those multiplayer modes, has those co-op modes, has other ways in which you can connect with the franchise that you don't necessarily need to play the story itself. Whereas Assassin's Creed, it so heavily lies on that story, even though, of course, there's been multiplayer modes in past iterations. There's been, other ways in which you can connect with these franchises. But it just comes down to, guys, that I think Valhalla... I think this is a real big moment for Assassin's Creed as a franchise. This could really help the franchise in a major way, or this could continue kind of splitting up the community, getting the community to go in other directions and such. And I'm only saying this, guys, because I love this franchise. I'm not just trying to, be, totally bashing a franchise whatsoever. I am trying, this is coming out of something that I have absolutely loved this franchise. And between the first game to the fourth game, that being, of course, Black Flag, it's been incredible. And then the other iterations of the game kind of became a little bit stale at times, right? And it just felt very forced. And then all of a sudden you get this totally new type of Assassin's Creed, that being, Origins, Odyssey, and now Valhalla. And I'm not saying that Valhalla is going to be a bad game. I'm hoping that it is incredible and we can continue talking about it here on the YouTube channel. But I just wanted to go back to what made this series so great. More stealth than action. Having action's great. Having great characters that we can play as. And look, making the story tie in one way or another to the traditional games that came out before it. So that's pretty much everything that I want. I know that's everything that a lot of other people want as well. There may be other things along the way, guys. Less side missions, more side missions, a longer campaign, more visceral campaign. Whatever the case might be, guys, there could be a million different things that we may or may not want in Valhalla. But at the end of the day, guys, I think that having a full package is going to be the first step in a great direction. Going back to the traditions of what made Assassin's Creed great in the first place, that being a stealth RPG, having great characters, and all of those things can obviously help in the long run. But let me know, guys, what do you guys want to see in Assassin's Creed Valhalla? Let me know in the comment section below. What is it? Do you guys want to see a lot of the same things I want? Do you want different things? Let me know what you guys think. And for more Assassin's Creed Valhalla content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Battlefield is one of the staples of gaming as a whole. Whether, people love Battlefield or hate it, it is one of those franchises, guys, that needs to exist within gaming, because not only from a competitive standpoint, that being like competing against games like Apex or games like Call of Duty, it needs to exist. And I think that there is a massive fan base in Battlefield that is just wanting and yearning for more content in Battlefield. So in this last segment of the show, I want to talk about everything that we know so far about Battlefield 6. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Alex Avard of Games Radar, Battlefield 6 will launch on PS5 and Xbox Series X in 2021. The next Battlefield game will launch in 2021 with plans to utilize the new technology offered by next-gen platforms, the PS5 and Xbox Series X, EA has confirmed. In a statement to IGN, a spokesperson for Electronic Arts said that DICE is continuing to support its current live titles Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5. But in the longer term, the studio is focused on the future of Battlefield that we'll be bringing to players in 2021. EA also told GameSpot that this next entry in the first-person shooter series will be targeting new innovation that will be enabled by next-gen platforms, though it's unclear if the game will also release on PS4 and Xbox One alongside the upcoming hardware. So, one thing that I want to take from that statement about targeting new innovation, what that tells me, guys, is that maybe they're going into the future here with Battlefield 6, which is what I'm hoping for. Look, Battlefield 1, we had, World War 1. Then Battlefield 5, of course, you had World War 2. And I think that, it's time to go back to the future, kind of like Battlefield 3. I think it's time that we go back to a more futuristic feel to Battlefield. I think that's been something that the fan base absolutely wants at this point. I think it would do really well at this point. Now, bringing out Battlefield in 2020, where the new console base is fairly small, doesn't really give justice to the potential of the title. And so that's part of our driver in moving the title into fiscal 22, the EA spokesperson said. DICE recently confirmed that Battlefield 5's next chapter will be its last, but promised to continue the support of the game with hotfixes and balance updates thereafter. So, here's hoping Battlefield 6, or whatever it ends up being called, can represent a return to form for one of the FPS's genre's seminal talents. So look, guys, I think that when we say, that this is one of those staples in gaming, it really is, guys. It's got it's got a great fan base, and the graphics are incredible, and they always try to up the standards with these games. Now, obviously, some people have loved the past iterations of Battlefield. Some people don't like Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5 for whatever reason. There could be any number of reasons, right? Every Battlefield that comes out, every Call of Duty that comes out, they're always controversial in one way, shape, or form. But I will say this. Battlefield 6, this could be a real great move in the right direction for EA and for Battlefield as a franchise. They go back in the future a little bit. I'm not talking like Call of Duty did with jetpacks. I'm talking going back to kind of like a Battlefield 3 type of style where you have more futuristic weaponry and things of that nature. You could have something really special on your hands, because I know that's what a lot of people in the Battlefield community are hoping for. Comes out in 2021. It's not that far away, guys. They're still continuing to try to support Battlefield 5 at this point. Obviously, I think the things that we absolutely want, just off the top of my head, number one, don't ruin the game with microtransactions, which we know so many of these games nowadays are being ruined or hurt in a major way because of the microtransactions and the pay-to-win, tactics and things of that nature. So hopefully that doesn't end up being a problem. Having Battle Royale with Battlefield Firestorm I thought was actually really cool in Battlefield 5. So having something maybe similar to that would be interesting, or maybe they continue and just kind of continue to update it with Battlefield 6. And then, of course, having a story mode. I'm going to say this, guys. I mean, look, the story modes that they've had, or these chapters that they've had, of course, in the past couple of Battlefield games, that being Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, are cool. It's cool being able to play the historical events, of course, throughout the course of the years, throughout the course of the wars, and from that standpoint. But having a single-player story, a full single-player story, I think would be really cool, because it reminds me like Black Ops 4. I loved Black Ops 4. I thought it was one of the best Call of Duty games ever made, but the one thing that it lacked was not having a single-player story. It, had like operator missions, basically, and that kind of is what it feels like with Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1, kind of like these operator missions that you play instead of a full-blown story. So I'd like to see a story mode in Battlefield 6, especially if they're going a little bit into the future. Something, really unique and cool would be absolutely awesome, I think, for this franchise. Having multiplayer obviously is a staple. for gaming as a whole, but of course for Battlefield at large. So having that, I think, would be great. Now, having more, maybe even more variety of different game modes that they could do, less maps where if you just want like very fast-paced gameplay similar to Call of Duty, you can do that. Or if you want the big, long, drawn-out fights, you can do that as well. I think having a real, balance between large and small maps, because Call of Duty has even gone into larger and larger scale maps. So why can't Battlefield do something similar to that? Because they kind of start playing in Call of Duty's playground a little bit. Because Call of Duty, well, we know that that's a pretty successful franchise right there. So maybe Battlefield can take a couple things from Call of Duty, because Call of Duty's certainly taken some stuff from Battlefield. So I'd love to see that as well. Have a really great, single-player story, but also having, other than multiplayer, having some co-op modes that you can play with your friends would be great, even outside of multiplayer. You think of, with Call of Duty, they have Spec Ops. They have other ways in which that you can connect with the franchise, or Call of Duty Zombies. Having things like that really bring you back to the game. And I think with Battlefield, the things that really bring you back right now, other than the single-player story, even though the past couple iterations really hasn't had a single-player story necessarily, are the multiplayer. It's pretty much all the multiplayer is what brings you back to the game, as well as the Battle Royale Firestorm. So I think, guys, having that full package is going to be incredibly important moving into Battlefield 6. I think that one thing I will say is that we probably will get a full package. I'm under the assumption that we're going to get a single-player story, and maybe it's just wishful thinking, but as well as some co-op modes, and of course a full-blown multiplayer, and potentially even some more Battle Royale. So I think if you have all of those things, it justifies a $60 price tag. Even if you're more of a Call of Duty fan than a Battlefield fan, you're going to get Battlefield 6 because it's going to have everything that you really want in it. And so I know for myself, I buy every Battlefield that comes out just because I love these games and I want to see them succeed. And so I'm hoping that Battlefield 6 lands on every possible place that we want it to. There's going to be things that are going to, be controversial, I'm sure, like with any big AAA title. But this is basically everything that we know, guys. Here's the thing, is that we know that it's coming out in 2021, so it's not going to be that much longer until we start seeing game footage, until we start, seeing the, the cinematics and things of that nature, and getting a confirmed release date. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys want to see in Battlefield 6 at this point? And I will certainly keep you guys all up to speed as further information comes out. And for more Battlefield 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.